back to another episode of Collider Jedi Council. I'm Kristian Harloff, aka Darth Harloff, and this is our weekly Star Wars show where we talk about, you guessed it, Star Wars. Everything in the world of Star Wars, we chat about it. And as always, on my council here on the right, you got Mark 2D2. Mark Ellis, what's up?
I'm back. So are the baby carrots. They're delicious.
They're delicious. And sitting next to him, he is Obi-Jon Kenobi, John Campia.
Greetings, everybody.
You sound like you're drinking something that we all should be drinking. Guys, super
That's
excited.
good Wookiee gin.
Good Wookiee gin. Carillion wine. We are here to talk about Star Wars. A lot of cool things that had happened this week, and we're going to get into it. So if you're brand new, if you've never seen this show before, welcome. We are going to, if maybe you're not a huge Star Wars fan, maybe you're just kind of getting into Star Wars and you want to learn about it. Hopefully we can be your liaisons into the world of Star Wars. And to do that first, we have a simple subject on this council that we call Star Wars Movie News. This is everything happening in the world of the movies. It could be the anthology films or the saga films, whatever those might be. We chat about them. Mark, you're back. You're here to talk about the stories. What's up first?
Well, it's Star Wars movie news, and it's fitting for this first topic because it's about the rest of the movies that Disney plans on making in the Star Wars universe in perpetuity. There's an article that I'm reading right now on Cinema Blend that says that they want to release a new movie every year for the rest of the years that years exist. Kristian, is this a good idea for the Star Wars universe to keep having a new movie coming out every year?
We kind of thought that this was the case when they announced it. When they announced the deal that Lucasfilm was getting bought over by Disney, they had said, okay, look, we're going to, as of right now, every year there will be a new movie. We'll get the saga films, we'll get the spin-off films, or what we know now as the anthology films. And now they're basically saying it looks like there's going to be more and more and more. What I think that means is that you should expect episode 10, 11, and 12. And what this article also said was, as long as people are paying to see the movies, we're going to keep making them. Which is, again, is a good business model, and it works for Marvel. And if it's, God bless you, and if it's working for everything, if it's working for Star Wars, then you should do that. Now the question is, will there? It's inevitable. Eventually, there will be a not good new Star Wars film.
What?
It'll happen if you're going to make that many movies.
Never has that ever happened, ever.
In ever.
Ever? Did we not watch The Phantom Menace?
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So what I mean though is that, but there's going to be, but that it does not to say make as many as you can, but don't just go for the, well, they know Han Solo, let's do Han Solo. Oh, they know Boba Fett,
Yeah.
let's do Boba Fett. This is why I also believe
They know that Jawa who sold them R2-D2.
right.
Eventually,
Eventually,
origin story.
I think eventually, like I said for a while, and I think it's going to be the case in the next couple of years, they're going to announce, not every year, but we will get 2 Star Wars movies in a year. John, you hear this news. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I still don't think they'll ever do 2 a year. But I mean, who knows? Stranger things have happened. I am totally on board with this. Of course, why not? Look, any guess, either of you two guys, the very popular TV show Breaking Bad.
Heard of it.
How many episodes of Breaking Bad are there?
It's 53.
62. Yeah. There are 62 episodes of Breaking Bad. 62 fabulous episodes. 1 or 2 were kind of filler, maybe.
Right.
But 62 episodes, and people kept coming back week after week. We're talking about one new story a year. And remember, this is the Star Wars universe. It's so big. Now, eventually, we probably got to move away just from the Skywalker line and all that kind of stuff. And we got plenty of time to get to that. There is no reason in the world why you can't do 1 movie a year and why you can't continue that on till whenever you've had a couple of bad ones in a row and people lose interest. And I think once a year is plenty spaced out, that people aren't going to feel overburdened with Star Wars or anything like that. Now, granted, I am biased. Star Wars is the greatest thing in the world to me, so I want more than 1 a year. But as I try to be objective and think about it, just from a movie business point of view, there's nothing wrong with this concept. This is a good idea. You have a rich universe. You have a profitable universe. You have a universe that generations of fans love and adore. And you've got a universe full of stories you can tell from now till Kingdom Come. So I think it makes perfect sense.
Look, when you play basketball and you get hot from behind the three-point line, what do? You keep shooting the basketball until you miss. Now, look, as fans, it's not always the most comfortable thing to say, you know what, we're going to have these movies for 20 years, but just look at the next one you got coming and they all sound awesome. What Marvel has done, there has been a bad Marvel movie in my opinion. You know, there's been ones that I haven't liked as much as the other ones. I didn't love the Incredible Hulk, but I still really liked it. So I think that fans are really going to enjoy every Star Wars movie that comes out. You might not be as engaged in one story as you are in another story, but this sounds like the right move so far.
All right, what's next?
Well, we're talking Snoke, and this is something that, like, I didn't know much about Snoke at all. Nobody did. Even Andy Serkis didn't. The day he showed up to start shooting Snoke, he still had no idea what the character looked like, and he worked closely with Domhnall Gleeson and Adam Driver. That gives you any indication of who the character is going to be hanging out with. And then Andy Serkis is also quoted as saying that Snoke is a very scarred individual. He's got a mysterious background, so he's talking Snoke at all, and that's surprising to me. Kristian, were you shocked to see Andy Serkis talking about this dude in the slightest?
He said a lot of things that I went, what? Wait a minute. Let me get that dollar ready. We'll start tipping it into the jar over there, because it to me, it was the scarred thing. He's been betrayed, it seems like. Maybe betrayed by his apprentice.
Who else do we know that's happened to?
Yeah, he's exceptionally tall. If they stick to what Plagueis was in the book, that's a possibility as well. The other thing that he had mentioned, he referred to himself as Lord in there once, and you know that's what the Lords of the Sith do as well. So the fact that, and even if it isn't, even if you take it out that it isn't Plagueis at all, I love the sound of this character. The guy, the scarred kind of alien that is practicing in the dark side of the Force, who is really the puppet master again, and maybe is even more damaging and devastating than Palpatine himself was. I love the sound of this, and who better than this guy to do it? I love the sounds of Snoke. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, he fully understands what the character of Snoke is now, and he fully understands how motion capture, performance capture can bring that to life. So Andy Serkis was totally the right choice from the start. I think we all agreed on that. And hearing about this character, yeah, he seems like the sinister force that is driving the motives of Domhnall Gleeson and Adam Driver's character. I'm in.
John?
Yeah, whenever I see that picture of Andy, I just think of like a million voices of people who want nothing but practical effects, crying out in terror. I mean, there it is. But so there's we just want lots of digital effects in this thing. No, this is I'm totally on board with this in both ways. In way number one, that of who I believe this dude is. And number two, if he is that dude, I'm totally good with it. It makes sense. It's consistent with the universe so far. It falls in line with canon. Even the canon we have outside of the EU, which is now Legends, it's totally consistent with that as well. I just think this looks great. It sounds great. I'm thoroughly impressed with Disney and Lucasfilm that we have not seen one glimpse of this guy yet. That is not an easy thing to do in today's day and age.
I also think his story is going to parallel the Luke of today, as where Daisy Ridley parallels the Luke of yesterday. I think Snoke is going to be. That's why I don't think there's a chance in hell that Luke is going to be evil, because this guy is.
Yeah,
He's
this is your
bad
villain.
guy.
Yeah,
he's the guy that's been in the shadows. I think that you're going to see him in the last 5 or 10 minutes
what
of the movie.
What if Andy Serkis is motion capturing a CGI Luke?
Luke, perfect. Yeah, but
just throwing that out there.
That's brilliant. But don't you think that this, like the same thing, I don't think you're going to see Snoke in like 10, 15 minutes of the movie. Because I think you got to
last 10, 15 minutes of the movie.
I think you're going to focus more on Phasma, and you're going to focus more. Kylo Ren is obviously all over the place. It's their movie, and then once you set up that guy, that's when you're going to see him as
Do you not
episode
think
8.
that's him in the trailer giving the speech?
No, I said that at one point. No, I don't.
I think it might be. Well, it's not Hux.
I think it is Hux.
You think it's Hux?
It is. They said there's
because
some
I thought it was
magazine.
Hux at once, and then I thought I saw another shot where Hux was standing further back. I could be wrong.
No, it's
though.
Domhnall Gleeson for sure, because
Okay.
there was some magazine that came out and trust me, the fans let you know when you're wrong. And when I had said at one point I thought it was Snoke, and all the fans tweeted in going, "Look, there's some magazine where it said General Hux addresses the new stormtroopers."
That makes sense.
So it does make a lot of sense, yeah. And especially after we heard Domhnall Gleeson talk about Hux and how last week, how he is really this obsessed with power, and his agenda is about becoming the ultimate leader, and you can see him now standing out there addressing the troops. So yeah, it makes sense.
Totally makes sense.
All right, Mark, what's next?
John Boyega is talking lightsabers, and if you guys have seen the latest Star Wars The Force Awakens footage that was released, you get to see him wield that a fair amount. One scene against a stormtrooper in particular, he's talking about the day that he got the lightsaber and that he held it in his hand and he quotes that he just felt the clouds open and the white doves come flying down. It felt very, very good. He said he hugged it for the whole day. He didn't let anyone else hold it but him. Kristian, do you buy this attachment that he has to the new lightsaber?
Yes, because anytime you see or hear him talk about Star Wars, he's one of us. Like if he even wasn't in this movie and he was just a guy that wasn't an actor and he was the same person, he'd say, hey, let's get John Boyega on Jedi Council so he can talk as much as we do. Because he is a Star Wars fan. So you can imagine what it was like. The fact, not only that is he holding a lightsaber, he's holding Anakin's lightsaber. That is Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber that he's holding. And come on.
We think. I'm just saying.
Look at it.
Think.
Look at it.
Hey, I think too. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm just saying it's possible.
There's other blue lightsabers in the galaxy,
but look at the way that thing is designed. That's Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber. And as a fan, I can understand and I can see it. And you see this passion even when you watch the trailer and he's jumping off the couch and everything. This dude is in love with the fact that he gets to do this, and he should. But how about you, John? What do you think?
Here's the one thing, though. You're right on every single point. His passion for this. You read those lines about him saying, I held on to it, wouldn't let anybody else. You know what this sounds like to me? A guy who's in it for one movie. It just sounds to me a little bit like a guy who
buying into Justin's theory.
That this is his one movie. Maybe he's not making that out of this movie. And it sounds to me like a guy, it sounds consistent at least, like a guy who this is his one opportunity to be in Star Wars, and he is just savoring every single second. I don't know if that's what I actually think. I'm just saying that when you look at his enthusiasm in that context, it sadly kind of fits. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I don't think he's dying in this movie, but I'm not really apt to predictions about what's going to happen to characters in The Force Awakens. I'm just happy that he's as excited as I would be to hold a lightsaber for the very first time. I'd be cradling that thing like I just won the Masters.
If he could speak right now, he would speak in the clip from Jordan Belfort and Wolf of Wall Street. I ain't going nowhere. He's going to be around for a while. All right, Mark, what's next?
Well, we got our first look at Constable Zuvio, which is a very exciting clip that you saw in Empire Magazine. He kind of looks like a really pissed off E.T., and he's a vigilant law officer on a mostly lawless world, as described by Lucasfilm. He keeps order in a frontier trading post. He is tough and humorless. Kristian, you digging Zuvio?
I am digging Zuvio. It has a cool Jim Henson vibe too.
It really does. That's the first thing I thought.
It really does. And you're watching, and I want to see. Again, this is something from watching the prequels the other day and us talking about it in our commentary. I want it to be subtitled. I want a subtitle. I want a new alien voice. To me, that has impact when the aliens are able, when you see their dialect and they're speaking in their native tongue, and he can still do all that stuff. I don't need him to have an Italian accent or be German. I want him to be whatever race he is. I want him to, because he looks devastating, not devastating, but he looks like it's going to be an impactful character, even if it's small. That's fine. Even if it's a scene for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Great, because these are the types of characters that do pop up in certain novels later on, or comic books or video games, because of that's what Star Wars has always done, even before this new canon stuff, is that characters resonate with people. And a guy like that you'd be like, oh, well, who's that guy? Because remember when we were kids and we had those toys, everybody knew the backstory on whoever was the bounty hunters that were there, and so this is something that I think could be pretty interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't care if it's subtitled or not. As long as it doesn't take me out of the movie, I'm fine. And you're right, Kristian. It does look like something you'd see in Dark Crystal or Labyrinth, or maybe even a Star Wars movie. I watched the original Star Wars 1977 print the other day on a plane, the original
so
print.
Jealous.
I got to see Han shoot first again for the first time in 20 years, and Greedo was not subtitled originally. So it's just Greedo talking in an alien language, and you don't know what he's saying, and you just pick up on it from what Han is saying back to him. It worked fine for me. Now, again, I'd seen the other version of the movie thousands of times, but I don't care if it's subtitled or not, as long as I'm still locked in.
Well, yeah, I'm talking about as far as if it's not subtitled, but he's still talking an alien language. Great.
He can be English as long as I'm not why is that dude speaking English? What if he says phone home?
It does kind of work when you understand the Empire and its for lack of a better word, the racism of the Empire, or the racism proper of the Empire. They were spread. Basic had to be the language, right? Basic was it. So I am not so bothered by a lot of times when aliens are speaking English. I just make it sound like an alien accent. Don't make it sound like 1940s Chinese.
Yeah.
I might. That's just don't do that, and we're okay.
Yeah, no. Look.
I'm with you though. I prefer subtitles.
too.
I want Greedo there with subtitles or no subtitles,
Yeah.
and let the people responding to them clue the audience into what they're actually saying. But I'm not taken out of it when they're speaking English.
Akbar speaks basic, okay?
Yes.
So there are tons of aliens that do that, but I also think that you could have a scene where Akbar's talking, because Akbar's also the commander and has to speak basic as well too. So it's just like you guys said, as long as it fits the character and it works. It's great. Okay, Mark, what's next?
Well, very unsurprising news, but it's also very good news, is that Star Wars The Force Awakens will be available in Dolby Atmos sound. Dolby has been associated with Lucasfilm since Star Wars came out in 1977. This is news that I'm probably not going to surprise anybody on this panel, but we definitely want to see it when you have the Dolby Atmos sound and the Dolby Vision projectors. Kristian, it's the right way to go.
That's absolutely the right way to go. I can't wait to see, because like you mentioned, yes, you have that they've been with them for a long time, but like Star Wars, Dolby has evolved. The sound is, just in IMAX to hear that. This is one of the reasons you go to see Star Wars, are for the effects for sure, and for the sound. I mean, the sound design of Star Wars has been something that's been groundbreaking forever. I cannot wait to hear the brand new sound effects and things that are happening in this movie. But are you excited?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's the way you want to see. And now that I read that, I got to go back and look at the tickets I bought for the AMC theater I'm seeing it at in Tempe to make sure that I'm seeing it in the best situation possible. I think I am, but I'm going to see this thing in like a bunch of different theaters. Some sort of like AMC Prime Dolby Atmos system is definitely going to be one of them.
John?
Yeah, you hear me pimping on the AMC Prime, the Dolby Cinema at AMC Prime a lot. I've seen lots of films in the Prime, and it's awesome. Now they've converted to Dolby Cinema at AMC Prime with the Atmos Vision and the Atmos sound system, the Dolby Vision projectors. I've only seen one movie so far in that cinema, and that was The Martian, and it was breathtaking. I'm actually going to go see Hunger Games tonight.
Oh, cool.
In that theater as well. And to see Star Wars in that, which, by the way, is the one that a bunch of us got our tickets for, is going to be in that Dolby Cinema at
that's
AMC
great.
Prime. Yeah, I'm super stoked about that for Thursday the 17th. But yeah, this is just makes sense. It is the most technologically advanced film ever made in the most technologically advanced theater ever made. So it's just a good marriage.
Okay, Mark, what's up next?
Another flick you can catch in Dolby Atmos is probably going to be Rogue One. And that idea was pitched by one of the Lucasfilm chief creative officers, John Knoll, who also invented Photoshop, I believe. With one simple line. He said, I have this very simple idea about the rebel spies in the opening crawl of A New Hope who steal the plans for the Death Star. That opening crawl states, during the battle, rebel spies managed to steal secret plans of the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star. An armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. I knew that part from memory. Kristian, how cool is it that you just walk in, you pitch one line, and Kathleen Kennedy loves it?
It's brilliant. It makes sense. You can understand, especially if someone who comes in there that knows the property, and he sits down and goes, I got an idea. Remember that opening crawl? We always wanted to know, how did they get the plans? Yeah. Okay, let's find out how they did it. Fans are going to love it. We'd all would have said the same thing. It makes total sense. They probably said we'll figure out who and why later. Is Vader going to be in it? We'll figure it out later. Is this like, oh yeah, there's so much that we can do, because all you can see with that one line how all these conversations could start. Because I remember when I had heard it, and I told you this. I had heard it about 3 months before they announced it that is what it was going to be. And I remember telling you, I was like, John, look, I think they're going to do a movie. I think I know what the first anthology movie is going to be, or the spin-off movie at the time is going to be. It's going to be about, at the time we thought, bounty hunters who steal the plans for the Death Star.
Yes.
And I remember everyone I told it to, you especially, were like, yeah,
That
absolutely,
works.
that makes sense. That's all you need to do. Pitch from that one line. John, do you think this makes sense?
Well, it totally does make sense. And remember, this is also a situation of where, hey, you just get to walk into Kathleen Kennedy's thing, give her one line again. You can do that when you're John Knoll, okay? When you're the creator of Photoshop, the chief creative officer of Lucasfilm, the guy who has been heading up visual effects at ILM for decades, the guy who, like you hear me crap talk on the prequels all the time, but the one thing I always say they really nailed, other than the pod race and the Darth Maul, is the visual effects were at the time like just a tectonic shift in the landscape of visual effects and CGI at the time. That was all shepherded by John Knoll. And when he comes into so it's not like It's not like I walked in and say, hey, Kathleen Kennedy, and then she calls security and all that kind of stuff. But when it's John Knoll, you can do that, and I'm so glad that he did, and I'm so glad that she listened, because this makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right movie. It's not like John's idea to pitch a Jawa movie, you know? Like, hey, I'm Johnny the Jawa. This one is actually like, because it's the perfect way to introduce the anthology series of Star Wars movies, because it's tied to the classic trilogy that we all know and love. So taking a bit of that lore and making the movie around that makes perfect sense to me. It sounds like a great war movie.
Yeah, it really does. And you bring up a great point to where this really kicks you off and to show you now what the anthology movies can be, where we can go in history. And by doing it from this particular episode, you go, oh, wait, so now we could go here. Like, that's why, even though, and John, I know, and I think I side with you here with you, how you don't necessarily need to see a Han Solo movie. Like I say, it's not, and we don't necessarily need to see an Obi-Wan movie. I'm excited to see them, but I understand your point where it's just like,
I'm against them, but I'm totally excited to see them too.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the reasons that you have that issue is because you could do something like this, like Rogue One, where you can explore it to where you don't need to go back and just explore Han Solo. But I understand why they're doing it, because it is such a loved character, and because I think Han's going to go out in episode 7. So by doing that, you miss him. I know. You miss him. And even if he doesn't, he's going to die eventually. And once he's missed, the older Han Solo is missed, there will be a young one. So but anyway, there's a lot of great potential. Now we know that they're going to make movies forever. So there we go. Mark, what's next?
You bring up Han dying in The Force Awakens. I changed the subject to Rogue One yet again. We have some names of characters in there, particularly the character of Riz Ahmed. It's been revealed by BBC journalist Lizo Mzimba. Totally butchered that name. Is it Riz Ahmed's character will be named Bodhi Rook? No, not Bodhi the surfer from Point Break. Bodhi Rook, who according to this photo looks like he's some sort of tech expert. Maybe he's the tech guy in whatever heist they're trying to maneuver, namely stealing the Death Star plans. You also have a Gold 9 character's call sign is going to be played by actor Duncan Powell. So, Kristian, you got these two little tidbits of information. Do you make anything out of it?
Is that Duncan on the left there?
That is Duncan on the left. That's a great headshot.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just excited. Riz Ahmed to me in Nightcrawler was so good. So to have him in this movie. But what's his character? Riz Ahmed is Bodhi. Okay, I mean, it's just soldier names too. And I'll tell you, after reading Battlefront, Twilight Company, I'm even more excited for Rogue One, because I think that Battlefront had such a good grip on who these characters were, and I also think you're going to see a lot of what they did in Battlefront, to where it wasn't just like kind of gung ho, yeah, rebellion. It was like soldiers. It was the same. It reminded me of World War II stuff. Like like I said, in Band of Brothers, it's like they fought because they had to. They fought because that was their job. And either you like it's a soldier. There are soldiers out there that fight for their countries. They may not believe in some of the political agenda, but they fight for their country, and that's what I want to see these guys. What's their dynamic as a crew? Like, that's what I'm really looking forward to, is that crew dynamic. And it is Felicity Jones. Is she like the main leader? Is she like someone that they bring in that the cruise is like, why is she here? You know, it's like that kind of Ripley thing. This excites me, though. I'm glad that both these guys, there's a little bit more to it. But John, what do you think?
Well, I mean, what also just got released recently was Alan Tudyk's character's name is Johnny Utah. Anyway, no. Honestly, little tidbits like this, I don't get excited about. It's like, okay, that 4th, 5th, 7th line credited guy, the character's name is going to be this. Now, unless the character name involves Windu at the end, or involves, Calrissian at the end, I'll go, oh, but if we just got a glimpse at his name, and yeah, maybe he looks a little bit like the Scotty of the crew, like he's going to be the engineer, the tech, sure, but other than that, it's not something I get terribly excited or discouraged about.
I don't get that excited about the name, other than the fact that it is Bodhi. But looking at that picture, it's like you brought up Nightcrawler. He still looks like a dude that Jake Gyllenhaal would hire to be his intern, because he's tech savvy. He can film all that crap, or in this other world, he can break into something using technology. Totally in.
Speaking of the tech, I love the tech. Like what he's got there, that looks like Star Wars. Again, it's like it's. I'm very curious because Rogue One does have a bit of, not a hurdle, but we know that Force Awakens is going to annihilate at the box office, and let's all cross our fingers and it delivers as far as what we wanted to, as a Star Wars fan, that this was the movie that we needed. This was the movie that we wanted. it's the next one up. Rogue One is going to be a year away. It's the next Star Wars morsel that we get. So they have to carry over a bit of a tone, and I'm so curious how much it looks like JJ's Star Wars. That like what are the models like that? Everyone, both Rian Johnson and Trevorrow and all the and the who's directing Solo.
The
Lord
so
Miller,
on and
baby.
so
Lord
on.
Miller.
Yeah.
Lord Miller. So, and with Lord Miller, so can they, if they wanted to, could they change a bit of the tone? It'd probably be silly for them to do it, but is it a mandate now? Follow what JJ did. Is that the mandate for everyone who comes? If it's, you know what I mean? Like, because it will change your view if it looks that much different.
No, I mean, no. I think the answer is actually yes and no. I think for the episodic films, yes. This is our starting point. This is our template. This is the tone of our episodes. But I think there's going to be a lot more leeway given to the anthology films simply because of the nature of them. They can jump around. They can do any kind of stories that they want that don't necessarily happen within the main storyline of the episodes. So,
I mean, tone though. I mean, as far as the look.
I think you're going to have a little bit more leeway, a little bit more freedom to jump around and do those. And you bringing up that Rogue One, that random thought that you bring up once in a while, Rogue One opens up 1 year after that, and then it'll be the first time in our lives that we will watch one Star Wars movie and only have 5 months to wait until the next Star Wars movie. I mean, I don't know why that just
it's going to be a pretty sweet half year.
Yeah, well, then we got to wait a year and a half after episode 8, so I'll be the downer.
Yeah, well, I'll probably get, probably marry somebody.
Yeah. Okay. All right, what's next?
Well, Vanity Fair had an interview with some guy named George Lucas. Yes, the creator of all of Star Wars was talking to them, and it was a brief interview, but he did explain why he's no longer directing Star Wars movies. You get to make a movie, and all you do is get criticized, is how George explains why he stepped away from the world-famous franchise that he created. And it's not much fun. You can't experiment. And he said something very interesting about the Force, that there's more to Star Wars in general than just spaceships, and that he doesn't want the Force to get muddled into a bunch of gobbledygook, but he also noted that he fully trusts J.J. Abrams in handling that lore. Kristian, we don't want the Force to get mucked up in a bunch of gobbledygook. Is J.J.
Just to be
Abrams
clear
right
here, this is from the same guy who gave us midichlorians.
He might have given us midichlorians.
This is the one saying he doesn't want the Force to get bogged down in gobbledygook. Okay, just wanted to be clear about that.
Yeah. I mean, yes. He also created the Force.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, hearing from this and then hearing John's comment, he's never been criticized. But no, listen, I think every week we mention how Star Wars conquered the universe, and written by Chris Taylor. If you go into that book, and
read that book,
and if you read that book, what I also learned in that book that I had heard before and I read before, that George Lucas is a very sensitive dude. He's a very sensitive guy. He's a human being. And he happened to create one of the most beloved franchises of all time. And to the people at this table think that he had a misstep with the prequels. There are people watching right now that said, no, he hasn't had any missteps. I love the prequels. But there are those people, they're the naysayers, and who have constantly been on his back all the time, and because that shows you how loved the property is. If you mess with something, look at what happened when we moved studios
from one studio
to the next. It's like, no, you can't do this.
Like change.
This is the worst now. And then they settle in and everything. But it's a matter of, can you handle it when it comes out? And I think eventually he said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to sell it off now. I don't want to keep getting that criticism. And I think, the Jar Jar stuff, and I think, by the way, they asked him what his favorite character was, and he said, Jar Jar. And he does that because he knows it pisses people off. And sometimes that's his FU to people. He deserves an FU. He deserves as many FUs as he wants, but he also sold it off.
Here's my Gungan middle finger. I think George Lucas is an absolutely certifiable genius. I thank him so much for creating the stuff that we get to talk about every day and dream of seeing on the big screen very soon. And I actually agree with his comments. It's like, if you get tired of getting criticized, then don't do it anymore. And you trust somebody who you believe in to continue the lore that you created. I think J.J. Abrams is the right guy to kick that off.
Yeah, I mean, and he was lucky enough and had the foresight that he already had a Kathleen Kennedy,
right,
as his protege, as the one he was grooming to take over the company at that point. Look, the genius of George Lucas, I don't think will ever be fully appreciated by a lot of people because it's not just Star Wars, not just Indiana Jones, it's everything that he's done for the movie industry as a whole, pushing it into the technological age, developing and really being the force behind digital cinema now, and behind ILM, Skywalker Sound, and all the things that he fostered and helped create. He even had a hand in helping create Pixar.
Right.
At one point.
Well, yeah, he had it, and then he sold it off.
And then he sold it off. And I think, that the prequels were a tragic misstep. Okay, so what? Steven Spielberg had bad days at the office. The prequels were his bad days at the office. But I think he just continued his genius and not just letting Star Wars sit in the shelf, which is an idea he entertained for a long time, just letting Star Wars sit there and let it just be there. But he had the foresight and the genius to not just sell it off to whatever guy came around with the biggest bag of money. He sat down with Bob Iger, and they had a conversation. And Bob Iger pitched him on what they could do with Star Wars and the future that it would have. George Lucas demonstrates his genius by passing it off, and who he passed it off to in the first place. So this can continue on, and he's going to continue to make buttloads of money until the day he dies.
Yeah, well said. All right, Mark, what's next?
Well, in a story that we talked about on Movie Talk a few days ago, the AFI has announced that they're actually pushing back the date for their awards consideration for the end of the year. They always do a top 10 movies of whatever year it was list, and they're pushing back the deadline so they can check out The Force Awakens before issuing that list. Now, it's been known that The Force Awakens was not going to submit for the December 1st deadline, which a lot of critics groups need in order to see a movie and then evaluate whether it belongs on any best of list. And Star Wars, for the fans, because they don't want the plot to get leaked, they didn't want to show it ahead of time, did not they didn't put it out then. They stayed with the original release date, and so now the AFI coalesced to them, which I think is a great move.
I agree. I think it's a really smart move, and you guys did talk about it a bit on Movie Talk the other day, and I just think it's going to be one of the biggest movies of the year. It looks like it's just from what Star Wars has done in general, from 77 and up until now. I think it's also AFI paying respect to Star Wars, and they should. But John, you talked about it for a bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Coles notes is this. This isn't a situation where a movie wasn't done on time, and then you have an awards body just bending to their will and saying, oh, okay, well, you can have more time just for you, though. No, this was a situation where the film was done, met all the requirements. It's just that there are such big things in this movie, we cannot risk this getting out by giving it to 500 media people that for awards consideration. Awards consideration aren't that big of a deal to us, so we're just going to hold it back. And for the AFI, understanding that was their reasons to push their deadline date, even if it is just for the one movie, I think was totally understandable, totally reasonable. I think it was smart for them. I think it's great for Star Wars, so it was a good move.
That's right. And just to be clear, I mean, this is the biggest movie release of all time. So you might want to acquiesce to some of those needs if you can. It's the biggest movie release ever.
All right, last movie story of the day.
Well, everybody's favorite yappy actor, Greg Grunberg, is talking again. This time, he mentioned at Entertainment Weekly that he was on set and he was a little embarrassed because J.J. Abrams caught him watching the movie instead of actually being in it. He's talking about a scene in which he was acting with famous Star Wars legacy characters like Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher. He's quoted as saying, I'm around a table and there's Harrison and there's Carrie, and Carrie Fisher's just the greatest. Harrison is great too. I mean, come on, it was a dream. Kristian, I like this dude.
I love this guy. I've heard interviews with him recently, and he's like a kid in a candy shop, and he's been buddies with J.J. Abrams since they were like 5 or 6 years old. Called him up and said, "Put me in the movie, dude." It's like if you were doing a movie, I said, "You better put me in a scene." and then they're
a scene. I want to be the star of the thing.
But when he's sitting around at the table, I can pick. That's why I would never want to be in this movie though, because I understand what he's saying. He's probably in the middle acting, and you're in that scene, and then you just find yourself going like this. Just why? Oh wait, I'm acting in this scene. You're not even paying attention to what you're doing. I can see that, and it also makes me realize, great, another great fan in the movie it shows what this movie means to everyone. This is a phenomenon. This movie, I cannot wait to see what this does. From comments like this of a dude who's just on set, and it also shows that everything that people were saying about the set that J.J. Abrams had is real. It's legit. The hype is real. It's like everyone was sitting around going, oh man, yeah, we're making Star Wars, baby. But Mark, what do you think about the comics?
I just hope this dude is more professional than anybody here at this table because, again, I echo Kristian's sentiments. If I was in Empire Strikes Back, I'd like to think I'd be Luke or Han, but I'd be the guy that said 2 fighters against a Star Destroyer. Yeah. That's it. Don't ruin the movie, Greg. I think you're going to be great.
The guy was nominated for that. John, what do you think?
No, it's great and it's fun and you feel a little bit of kinship with a guy like that. You almost get to live a little bit vicariously through him when he's on there. Because you're hearing him say these things, you know, these exact same things you'd be saying if you had the chance, and it keeps that levity and that fun with the whole atmosphere of the production. So it's great.
Okay, that's everything that was happening in the world of Star Wars movie news. And our next segment on the show is simply known as What's the Deal with Canon? Everything in the world of Star Wars, whether it be comic books or video games or television shows, whatever it is that links back into the world of the movies, we talk about it. Quite a few things that happened in the world of canon this week. Mark, what's up first?
Well, it's a recap of Rebels. You guys actually do the Rebels recap here on Collider. I haven't kept up with it due to my busy carrot growing schedule. What is the latest with Rebels?
How many episodes have you seen so far?
I have seen the one this year, and I need to binge. I'm going to binge watch them.
They're all on your DVR?
They're all on my, what's a DVR? It's a TiVo.
Oh, that actually to me, and I'm sure, John, you might echo this as well, too. I'm a little jealous that he's able to do that.
You're jealous of me for a lot of reasons.
That's totally the way to do it. If we weren't doing recap shows and I wasn't so ravenously hungry for every scrap of Star Wars I could get, I would totally wait like 3-4 months, binge watch. Wait till the second half of the season, then binge watch.
Yeah, because one of our biggest things this season is how short the episodes are and they just go. So,
yeah, 22 minutes is not enough.
We talked about it quite a bit, and we're not going to go too much into it because John and I and David Griffin, we talked in great depth on this week's episode, Blood Sisters. Correct. This is an episode that was my least favorite of the year so far, but John, you feel the opposite.
I put in my top half of my favorite of the year. Yeah, I really did quite. Even though this happens to you and I a lot. We will sit down with a movie or a show or an episode, and we will write down a list of pros and cons, and we will have the exact same list of pros and cons.
Right.
I'll agree with everything you thought was good or bad about it. You'll agree with me, but at the end you'll say, "Yeah, so I didn't like it," and I'll go, "Yeah, but I did like it," even though we agree on everything.
Reasons, it's true. So if you want to go check out our full recap on that, and if you haven't already and you weren't aware of it, well, now you know. So you go to our Collider Rebels recap that comes out every Wednesday right after the show airs. You should be catching up on that. Check it out, and you leave your comments obviously there. Mark, what's next?
Well, big news in the Ellis household. I got a PS4, which means I can not only play Battlefront, now I can watch the new Steelbook Blu-rays of Star Wars. They were just released. Kristian, is it a worthwhile investment despite the overwhelming amount of evil that is on the covers of these Steelbooks?
Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you, here's the one thing that you should know about them as well, too, just straight off the bat. There's no special features. I know. I'm sure those things will come out later on, too, but the first ones, to me, why they were released. They were released for the quality and the sound, and in that aspect, they deliver. They are crisp. They are clear. It is absolutely the version that I want to watch. When we watch the commentary now for when we do Attack of the Clones, and Seth, we'll be watching these steelbooks because everything that they've done, the transfers are, I mean, they're beautiful. They're really clear. I'm okay with it without the special features. I know that. Well, why didn't you just put the special features on this one and then they're going to resell it and it'll be a money grab?
Double dip.
Whatever. It's for me, I'm watching it for the quality, the sound quality, and it is the most clear version of Star Wars I've ever seen. If you just want to pick it up, just for those reasons, it's well worth the buy.
And I love that movie, The Empire Strikes Back, which, according to the cover, is all about stormtroopers.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stormtroopers in the Empire.
Yeah,
have you counted how many stormtroopers the Empire has?
I mean, yes, there's a fair amount of stormtroopers.
What do you got against stormtroopers?
It's like, are you going to put Greg Grunberg on the cover of The Force Awakens?
I might.
You saw a little bit of the quality when I was watching it yesterday.
I was blown away, man. Now, what? Because I was a fan of Menace. I want to know if the original trilogy looks. Wow,
it looks really, really clear. And just they're beautiful. They really, really are beautiful.
And speaking of Battlefront, which you brought up a little bit earlier, in the other room right now, Ray is downloading our copy of Battlefront.
Which let's
we can do. Well,
can we speed this up, fellas?
I also am waiting because I've been so busy. I literally have a PS4 and Battlefront sitting at home, yet to be. Oh, my girlfriend's probably opening it right now. Have fun, sweetie. Kristian, is it awesome?
So far so good. I mean, I've been playing it. Look, my thing, and I've said this from the moment that this was announced. I'm more of the RPG. Playing, like, I'm looking forward to when I know Visceral is going to have a game, and I'm really looking forward to the story of Star Wars that are going to tell new stories, new canon stories too. But I mean, this is for ultimate Star Wars fans. This game, I mean, you feel like you're running around on Hoth or you're on Endor. You really do. And I had to, when I was downloading the game and was waiting for it to download, they just let you be Vader and just wipe people out while you're waiting to play. So I was doing that for a while, and I was pretty.
Yeah, you're not evil at all, are you?
No, it was pretty fun. But and I know there's been some complaints about the game that I guess it's a bit repetitive, and sure. But I mean, I always felt like, I mean, there's certain elements of the old Battlefront that were very repetitive as well too. But this one to me is it's a lot of fun to play with fellow Star Wars fans. Like, we're going to be playing against each other.
I was going to ask you that. Have you played with fans on the?
Yeah, and it's really fun. Like,
is your screen name something that they would know this is the guy from Jedi Council?
Darth Harloff. I know. Look it up, and then I'll be playing against Jedi Council fans for sure. There's a Jedi Council fan group already that they made as well too that you can play. So I actually joined that as well. So
there's a Jedi Council Battlefront.
Someone started a Collider
Jedi
Council
Battlefront group. Yeah. Look out, because 5150 Ellis is coming to town. It's probably going to suck.
That's a great thing. So find the Collider Jedi Council group. Let's all join it. Everybody who's watching and have PS4, join it, and then let's kick the crap out of each other and play some Battlefront.
Just don't. I mean, take it easy on me.
I can't play.
Well, I
don't have PS4.
You can play. We'll bring it in here. You'll play.
There we go. Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, Mark. What's next?
Let's review some comic books. Canon issue number 8 is new this week. Kristian, you got a chance to check it out. Is it continuing one of your favorite comic book series?
It is, and what it does with Canon is right now this arc. And when we had Greg Weisman on the show as well, he said this was going to happen. That you were going to dive more into Kanan's history of what he was, how he was as a Padawan, and where he got to be the Kanan that we know today. Now, John, I know that Kanan's your favorite character
in Rebels.
Rebels, I would strongly suggest, man, reading this comic from 1 to 8. And John Schnepp, who's just getting caught up in Star Wars and has not really watched Rebels, I just turned him on to Kanan, and he's loving it. He's losing his mind over this comic, and he should be, because it's one of the best. And Greg Weisman really develops his character. And in this one, we're back at the Jedi Temple. There's some throwbacks to some legendary characters as well. There's a cool battle. There's an invasion of the Jedi Temple, something that has been referenced in the past that has played out, I think, in the Clone Wars as well. There's a mention of some Clone Wars characters that I thought was cool. It was another stellar issue.
All right, let's talk about Star Wars issue number 12. Does it turn the Force into gobbledygook?
It does not turn into gobbledygook. And what is very interesting is that a bunch of people are wielding lightsabers, and people you might know and love are wielding lightsabers.
You mean Chewie's grabbing a lightsaber?
There are a bunch of people, and there are people grabbing lightsabers in this, and it works. It's not just kind of thrown in there. Luke has been. Looked like Luke, like how Luke is always looks like he's going to be down and out, but this is a classic Star Wars tale. It really was, and what it does very well is it ties into this run of Vader down that we're going to talk about in a second too. This is what I really enjoy about the new canon in the comics, is that they're all aware of everything that's going on in the timeline, and it syncs up. And it makes it work. And Luke's going on a particular mission that we learn is learning more about the history of the Jedi and leading up to the events of Empire Strikes Back.
All right, well, you bring up Vader Down, issue number 1. Let's talk about this new series. Did you get a chance to read it yet?
I did, and it basically starts at the stop of the last Star Wars issue that we were just talking about. Now, Vader Down is also going to continue into the Vader series as well, and it takes place with Vader on the hunt for Luke. It's called Vader Down because, as you see on the cover, something happens, his TIE fighter crashes, and he's got a bunch of rebels after him, but he does not care because he is looking for Luke. How it happens, how the crash happens is very interesting. I'm really enjoying this, and I think it was a great departure. I've been a bit critical. I was critical on the Vader series for a little bit, and then the last 4 issues have been really good, and leading into this, great issue.
Well, I'm still waiting for Sprint to make a cool Star Wars commercial, but Verizon has taken the lead and made an awesome one that features BB-8, Chewbacca, and First Order Stormtroopers, so much so that in a few of these fan-made, like, epic Star Wars Force Awakens trailers that combines all the footage we've seen, they actually include some of this as well. I don't know if this is in the movie or not. I don't think any of this is actually in the movie, but it's a great ad.
I haven't seen it yet, so I'm going to let you guys talk about it while I watch it without the volume.
Did you get a chance to check it out, John?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was cute and cool and fun. I mean, I don't think there's anything in it to read into. It was just a really cute, fun little commercial.
Now, if you were going to read into it, you could say that Chewbacca is going to be killing a lot of stormtroopers in here with the help of BB-8. And from the trailers that we've seen, Chewbacca is a major force when it comes to pyrotechnics, to shooting stuff. He's going to have a lot of weaponry.
Yeah, Chewbacca is in the stormtrooper butchering business, and business is good.
Yeah.
Like, of that I have no doubt.
Well, he's like Zeb. You know, Zeb had a blast killing these things too. And I'm watching this too. You know, the one thing I will say about Chewbacca though, and I never had this complaint when we first saw the new images of him too. He in these, if this is how he looks, he looks younger than he did in Episode 4.
I thought the same thing.
He looks younger.
He looks a little less ragged.
Now I know they get old. They can get like 300-400 years. Wookiees. They live long, and I think Chewie's
around 200.
Yeah, he's younger. So, but he still looks younger than he did in Episode 4. Yeah,
That's what happens when you're a Wookiee and you go gluten-free, you eliminate soy and dairy from your diet, you look younger, your coat is healthier.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, now it's time. It's that part of the show where you guys have submitted questions, Twitter questions, throughout the week. You simply hashtag it Collider Jedi Council. You've been submitting so many great things. We pick out a few. We talk about it. Mark, we have some this week. What do you got?
Francisco Lopez kicks us off and asks if they do have Anakin's lightsaber, they're going to tell how the gang got it back after what happened at the end of The Empire Strikes Back.
Are they going to tell how they got it
I mean,
back?
the thing fell into oblivion.
Yeah, well, not necessarily.
Cloud City was
It didn't fall into oblivion. It fell into it landed on a shaft somewhere.
Really?
Yeah,
Is
remember
that
when
canon?
it fell? Yeah, you saw the movie. When it didn't go into. Remember when
I thought it fell down with his hand. I thought it and his hand just fell out into nowhere.
No, because when Luke fell,
Yeah.
those things had to open up before he fell into.
So the lightsaber didn't roll down there and tumble out.
we don't know
as
where
well?
it rolled. I mean, I think that they'll explain what happened to it. You know,
they'll
and how-
have to.
Yeah, how they got it. But what do you guys think?
Well, remember, we don't officially know that Luke's lightsaber is still around anywhere. We just believe it is. I mean, I don't know. It is something you're going to have to explain and explain well, because it's a bit of a stretch. It is a bit of a stretch, but there are devices there that you could use to make it happen.
30 years is a long time to
What's
collect
next?
relics. Daria Dedan. There's a lot of you guys pronounce it. Do you guys buy Jakku as a new planet, and do you think it's JJ's trick and its turnout is actually Tatooine? That's a great question. Is this all a ruse that Jakku is actually Tatooine?
No way.
No.
But for one, there's so many ways to say why, and one of those main reasons is, well, Battlefront. There's a full planet of Jakku, the full design. The other one is Lost Stars.
Yep.
It was the full design of
Jakku is canon now. It is absolute
It's a
canon.
full planet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I thought that initially.
initially it could
Me
have been a
too.
ruse.
At first thought,
Yeah.
but then once they start, you understand that all this new stuff is actually real canon. Then you start reading some of the expanded universe stuff. You start reading Lost Stars and the Battlefront,
Right.
and understand all that. No, Jakku is a very serious planet. The Battle of Jakku is a major, important part in the galactic history now. It is absolutely not a trick being played by JJ.
Yeah, it was a great question by Arya Dariadnan. I will nail the name eventually of each and every one of you guys. Next up is Isaac Chavez. Do you guys think that Finn was a part of a special unit of stormtroopers trained to deal with Jedi?
Yes.
Yes.
I absolutely. I think that's a great question, and I think the answer is yes, because what we've seen, and the reason why we didn't talk about it in one of the stories is because of this question. There's a new TV spot that just came out that was great. We talked about it today on Movie Talk as well, and you see Finn just moving around that saber, and he clearly knows how to wield it. But John, you made the great point this morning of saying that he's not. If a stormtrooper is able to fight him off, he's not a Jedi.
He no Jedi.
He's not a Jedi.
Yeah.
So- and I agree with you on that. And I think that he has been trained in the arts. And maybe that's how, maybe he got his hands on that saber and then he took off. And it's, maybe that saber was brought into the ship. Maybe Poe got it, because I still think the movie's going to start with Poe. And I think that
Makes sense.
And we've talked about, and now it's been proven that we have that stormtrooper that is walking Poe down the hallway is Finn. Something happens there, and whether he releases him, whatever it is, too, he gets a hold of that lightsaber. And
if you saw the original trilogy, you watch the game film, you know stormtroopers aren't the best shots. So give them a different weapon, see if they're more effective.
Yeah, I think at some point the Empire transforming into First Order should realize, you know what? Whenever we run into a Jedi, we can have half a legion of stormtroopers there in the cup. Let's at least make it so if a Jedi runs into like 20 stormtroopers, we have a chance.
Right.
And that seems to make sense.
All right, Mark, what's up?
Harold B. Gibson writes, if we are doing commentary on Attack of the Clones, he really enjoyed our one on The Phantom Menace.
I'll let John address this morning. I'll let John address it now.
We actually had a lot of fun doing the Phantom Menace one, and we're going to be doing all 6 of the Star Wars films. We already did the Phantom Menace. It's guys, like almost 120,000 of you have sat through that movie with us and watched that commentary. We are going to do them all. We planned on doing it a couple days ago, but just there's a lot of us involved and a lot of schedules to work out. And we have a lot of moving parts. So something came up and we couldn't do it, but we are going to get back on track with them. You're going to see all 6 before The Force Awakens comes out.
Yeah, and I think and another thing that I didn't have the steelbooks at the time. We watched the Phantom Menace on like DVD, so it still had Puppet Yoda and not the CGI Yoda as well too. So we're looking forward to doing that. So stay tuned for that. All right, last one.
This is one of my favorite questions we've ever gotten from Scott Despins. Which character is most likely to have a bad feeling about this in The Force Awakens?
Finn.
If Han Solo was not in the movie, I would say Poe. But Han Solo's in the movie. Han Solo is saying the line.
Can we put some kind of wager on this?
Right now, my Vegas odds, it's like Finn and Harrison Ford and Han Solo are both 3-1. I think Poe is maybe 6-1. I have Rey like a 10-1. I have Carrie Fisher at a 15-1, and Chewbacca is off the board.
Chewbacca, don't count that out. Chewbacca would actually be my second pick. I think Ford is doing it, and in a really cute, nod way that JJ throws at fans sometimes. If it's not Han, I think it'll be Chewie before I think it would be Finn.
And then we'll
Rey.
know that Chewie said it because of the way Han reacts to it.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we got today. Thank you for everybody who submitted your questions. Make sure you do it again. Hashtag Collider Jedi Council. Always fun to hear what you guys are saying in the world of Star Wars. It's been a lot of fun just talking to you guys on Twitter in general about all this stuff. I'm always taken aback with all the Star Wars love and just questions that we get from you guys all the time. So thank you for that. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Collider Jedi Council. I'd like to thank the council first. Mark 2D2, where can they find you?
Well, you talk about the love on Twitter. You should see the love in person. The last 2 weeks I've been out in Austin, Texas, and West Palm Beach, Florida, and there was a ton of Jedi Council fans that came to both weekends. It was amazing to see you guys. I'll be at the Omaha Funny Bone this weekend. If you're in the area, come on out, watch them stand up. I'm at 5150 Ellis.
And next to him, Obi-John Kenobi. John, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Movie Talk and Jedi Council and Heroes and Mailbag and a lot of the other stuff we do. You can also follow me on Facebook and on Twitter at John Campia. And just a reminder, guys, it is November. It is that time of the month where you can go No Shave November, which is what I've been doing as a way of reminding us to donate a little bit of cash to cancer research. Very few things you could do that'll be more worthwhile for your money.
And guys, make sure that's one of the things you guys have been doing. So, I mean, I love that there are people. I love the conversations that I'm kind of tagged in where you're letting your other Star Wars fans know about Jedi Council if they didn't already. Thank you for sharing the show. Please help us continue to do that. And the other thing is, if you're watching this show right now, whether it be on your mobile device or if you're watching at home, just click that like button. It helps. It shows exactly who's watching, what you guys think about the show. And like I said before, hashtag Collider Jedi Council for Twitter. And for me, I'm Kristian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram at Kristian Harloff. We'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.